Your Words Destroy My Planet, the stream series. The edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitysdownfall. More information in the description. Your Words Destroy My Planet. Chapter 53. The body and the mind are incredible machines. Really, they are. When you're in a life or death situation, the body will prioritize the things that best promote its own survival. In times of incredible deprivation, people generally can't get pregnant anymore because that's a huge drain on resources in an evidently dangerous time and place. When you're freezing to death, the body will withdraw heat and support for the extremities, preserving your core for longer and longer. It's even possible to go into a type of stasis in incredibly cold environments. Even in states of mental stress and exhaustion, you'll get parts of the brain that flick into a lower power mode, but the things that keep you alive stay right in place. None of these situations are good, obviously. The point is that billions of years of evolution haven't killed humans off yet. Your whole planet getting eaten didn't even do the job. Surviving is what you do. Fuck it if it ain't horrendous, though. It's just about the best you can credit yourself with, though. You're surviving. You're not happy about it, or happy about much of anything. And you're not depressed or anything, but it's more like your brain has taken a strategic look at the shit show that you're in and decided that giggles and japes come at a somewhat lower priority to keeping power to the system that prevents you from screaming in anguish in public. Hashtag priorities! It's not even been that long until you show back up at the hospital. Your brother needs you. He's going to be going through medical shit and getting his new arm soon. They're discharging him today, so you need to be there. So you go and do that. There you are. You weren't answering my messages, Rose says. You're suddenly at the hospital. You do remember the journey. You're not missing memories. You simply weren't giving it enough brain to give enough of a fuck for it to really register. Sorry, you say automatically. Rose side-eyes you and then lowers her voice. What's going on? I couldn't get any kind of answer out of Solix and Karkat. Is this just fully hitting you, or is something else happening?
I don't want to make this about me. I'm here for Hal getting out, you say instead.
If something is wrong... Rose leaves the words dangling.
Nothing that can be fixed. Drop it or people are gonna look, you tell her.
Rose watches you carefully for a moment, but then nods. She won't drop it for good, but she's letting it go for now. Tomorrow, then? Your dad asks Equius as he sets the bandages back in place.
The swelling appears to... Equius starts, but your ability to hear that conversation is cut short by June sidling over to you and talking.
Any news about Bro? Is he going to keep doing this? June asks quietly. The $1 million question. Rose agrees. Your throat goes tight, and your fingers clench in Beck's fur. Beck nudges his face against your hand and twists so he can lick at your wrist. You're here, he's here. Breathe like a normal person. I thought that Beck couldn't be in the hospital since he wasn't working. Unless... June looks at you with concern. He is working, Rose concludes. They both know full well how much panic Beck is trained to soothe for you and Jade both.
Hal, can we just... Hal? You force the words out.
June leans against you cautiously, but when you don't tense or pull away, she gets closer and wraps one arm around your back. Hey, you're okay. Don't tell the others, but you're my favorite brother, you know? June whispers to you. I bet you say that to all of them. Rose teases her gently. You laugh, ever so slightly, a breathy, strangled thing that's barely loud enough to hear, but it's there. You guess June, Rose, and Beck took enough weight off of something else, so your mind could allow a tiny bit of amusement.
Oh, I see how it is. I'm the one getting out of the hospital, but Dave's the one getting the hugs, huh? Hal calls over from his bed.
I'm just practicing my one-arm tugs so I can keep up with what you're giving out.
June shoots back instantly.
Oh, you bitch!
Hal exclaims, both blatantly amused and kind of offended at the same time.
Language,
Equius reprimands Hal, tapping him on the head with his tablet pen. Equius realizes that he just did that in public, at work, in front of Hal's family, and then notices the single raised eyebrow from your dad. You didn't know Equius's face could go as blue as that. For some reason, the process of getting out of the hospital is a lot smoother after that, and before you know it, you're on your way back to your dad's home.
Will you be there?
Hal asks, pulling you out of whatever auto-follow mode you'd dropped into.
Sorry, what?
You say, since there's no way you can pretend you weren't entirely mentally checked out there.
Tomorrow. Equius says I'll be healed enough that the swelling won't be as bad, but not so healed that I've screwed my chances for a decent arm. I've got to be awake for the whole thing, even if it's numbed and I'm a little sedated. Can you be in there with me? I'm allowed to take one person, and you're the only one that's done this before.
Hal says again.
If you want me there.
You agree. You really don't want to see a lot of blood right now, but it's your fault that he's in this situation in the first place, so you weren't meant to be doing that. Getting out of feeling bad by doing something to make up for it. Cotard says that wasn't good for you. You don't want to see a lot of blood right now, but you know what it's like to be on a table like that, being aware of people doing unpleasant medical shit to you. You know that Equius is the best person for this, and you trust him completely. That doesn't mean that Hal isn't scared. You never had anyone to keep you calm through it all besides Equius himself, so if you can help Hal, then you want to. Even if that means you have to see blood and things that you don't want to see in the process.
Sure. Can you send me the times and shit, but also send them to Karkat?
You ask him.
Wow, are you making that boy be your personal assistant as well as everything else?
Hal snorts.
Please, it'd be harder to get Karkat to not micromanage everything.
June laughs.
Sure.
Hal agrees. If Karkat knows that you're supposed to be somewhere, then he can prompt you about it if you end up curled up on the lounge plank or a bed in one of those states where you fervently pretend to not exist and instead cling to one of your partners. You've slept on Solix's bed with him sitting on it, his legs over your body, and his claws click-clacking on his keyboard keys in a soothing beat that turns your brain off. You've been physically present for movies that you absolutely didn't watch with both of them, and who knows how many pages of Karkat's books have gone through your ears without hitting your brain. Cotard says it's good. You're decompressing and healing, or something. You sit on the floor in your dad's living room and carefully brush Beck's fur out, and unlike usual, where Beck would be making this into a game and squirming about in between attempts to eat his own fur, he's sitting patiently and calmly. He's doing it because you're focusing on the task and keeping yourself calm. He's treating it as work. Hey, Dave, are you okay? Is it Hal or is it all of us? Roxy asks, kneeling down next to you. You look up at her concerned face and then across the room. Everyone seems concerned, including Hal. I know we've put all the other stuff aside because of Hal, but if this is... if being around us all right now is too much, then I get it. Roxy elaborates. Right. The other stuff. How they all told the whole ship about you, blew your whole cover, told everyone that you're a balancer. It doesn't matter, comes out of your mouth. Your fingers feel weirdly numb, like you can't hold Beck's brush right.
It matters,
Hal points out. Doesn't. You shrug and lower the brush, since you clearly can't do that anymore. You're just losing skills left, right, and center, aren't you?
You told everyone what I was, but it doesn't matter now.
You shrug. You just shrugged one after another. Normal Dave body language is glitching. Cool, good to know. Was? Dirk and Rose say at the exact same time. Those two are too sharp. Yeah, no more bro, not a balancer anymore. You say numbly. Wait, what? What do you mean no more bro? How can you not be... What? Hal asks.
What happened?
Jane gasps.
I thought you said that you couldn't get rid of him, that you can't separate people like you and ghosts,
Roxy says. Yeah, well, turns out if a bunch of our dead family members show up, they can murder Bro's ghost and cripple me balance-wise and destroy my fucking life. Apparently now is when they wanted to do that. You say bitterly. They couldn't have done that before Bro fucked both of us up? Hal snarls, waving his remaining hand at his bandaged shoulder. I know, right? You say miserably.
So, he's gone? Gone for good? He can't watch any of you or hurt anyone ever again?
June asks. I want to be happy that he's not creeping around anymore, but that he can't blow anyone else's arm off, but what did it do to you? You said you're not a balancer, and you said that you're stuck with Bro. Does that do something to you? How does that work? Dirk asks. Are you all right? Dad adds with concern. No, you say simply.
You saw it, right? The way you said that they showed up and killed him made it sound like you were there. You saw our biological father die twice. I'm not sure that all right is going to be accurate.
Rose points out. I can't balance. I can't do anything. You catch yourself there and stop. Looking at your family, you can feel something unpleasant curling in your gut. Bro's dead. You had to see that twice, like Rose said. But now you're not a balancer at all. You're weak, and you've lost a huge part of yourself in a way that leaves the people you love more vulnerable. You can feel the hurt and the anger inside you, but being around your family isn't helping. You already have enough issues with them, especially with some of them. You put it aside for Hal, but you can't just pretend that they didn't screw you and that some of them still haven't seen it your way. A furious little part of you wants to demand to know if they're happy now. Isn't this what they wanted? You're not a balancer now, and you're safe, for whatever that means. Is that what they wanted? Is the price you had to pay for that acceptable to them? Yeah, no, you're not saying that. And you know that your family loves you, that they didn't choose this. But if you stay, you're going to say something you don't mean. You don't have the strength to watch your mouth for long. I need to go home. I'll see you tomorrow, Hal. You say quietly and get up. A few of your siblings try to go after you, but your dad reminds them to let you leave if you want to, something that you're deeply grateful for. You mean to go home. You're already on the train on the way there when your palm husk pings.
Carcat, can you spot me for this one?
What do you mean? Join you in Duelist, or keep an eye on your balancing? I have no idea what you're asking. He's asking to join us. All those dreams from years ago finally did come true. If any of you felt a disturbance in the balance, that'd be the littlest light balancer smacking me. You gotta talk shit out of range. Also, I'm gonna assume Megalodon's getting mega laid or something.
It's mid-afternoon.
Watch me ignore all of that and ask again what it is you need me to do.
Thank you. I just want you to watch what's going on. Things feel weird. Maybe it's just paranoia from what happened at the bar, but it feels like, I don't know, weird.
They're balancing without you. Of course they are. You can't do anything anymore. You don't want to go home right now and see that. You don't think that you can. You can't help but blank on where to go. You don't want to go back to your family. All of your friends are balancers, sailors, or else they're connected to them or your family. You default to going to the gym, changing into clothes you have there, and running until you can't think anymore, and then for a good amount of time after that. You set alarms to wake you up. You eat and dress the next morning with absolutely no memory for the details of any of it. Literally, you're on the train to see Hal right now, and if you weren't able to see your reflection in the window on the other side of the train, then you wouldn't be able to say what you're wearing. It's probably fine that you're numb, right? Probably. With a little bit of effort and a lot of soothing pets for Beck, you're able to get to your dad's place and psych yourself up enough to go in there and be a person. You can show up and see your family and say things. It's easier when it's just you and Hal. There's fewer people to keep track of.
Thank you for taking me,
Hal says gratefully when you're out of there.
I get it. It's a big deal, and I'm the one who's got the, eyes, you say dumbly. Yeah, but also, it sounds awful to say, but the concern is getting a little... Whoa, fuck!
Hal is cut off as he stumbles going around a corner. You grab his arm to steady him, but he rights himself easily enough.
Having just the one arm screws with your balance, huh?
You say sympathetically.
It definitely does. I'm sure the new one will screw me over again as well, or it'll take time to get used to at least.
Hal agrees.
It's cool. It happens to all of us.
You reassure him as you walk along.
Did your eyes feel heavier after you got them changed? They must have, right? They have to be heavier than human eyes, which are just very specialized goo. I've grossed myself out thinking about eyes. Ugh.
Hal says with a grimace.
I don't think I remember noticing that. Mostly I meant that my balance is fucked now, too. You say, with a laugh that's less funny ha-ha and more cry for help. Mortifying.
The way Hal is looking at you shows how deeply conflicted he is. On the one hand, he didn't want you to balance in the first place. He thinks it's awful, and even though he came around to admitting that his attempts to help you were messed up, but he still isn't a fan that you had to do it. You weren't a fan either, but it had to be done. It's just how it was. Who you were, and suddenly aren't anymore. So he's probably happy, not to mention how much safer he must feel with Bro being gone and unable to hurt him again. Hal's only got so many limbs to lose. He's safer with Bro dead for good. He already got over Bro being dead. He probably wants you to have that as well.
It wasn't your fault,
Hal says quietly.
Which bit? Not stopping him from blowing your arm off, or freezing when his family showed up and murdered him?
You ask. Both, Hal tells you after a moment. You don't have anything to say to that. You're not even sure you should say anything to Hal about it. He's dealing with enough already, isn't he?
It kinda sucks that they can't just give you an artificial ghost in the same way that I'm getting an artificial arm,
your brother says after a bit.
It doesn't really work like that. Everyone has a particular connection to theirs. I can't just find dead Steve from accounting and use him, you point out. With the way you said that, I can only assume that it's first name Steve, last name is double-barreled from accounting. The famous from accounting family. Poor Steve was never any good with numbers and was shunned,
Hal says in his serious deadpan voice. Tragically ate too much paint when he licked his brush to sharpen it and died from poisoning, you add.
Dark.
Hal nods and then continues.
Anyway, I wasn't saying that you should go recruit Steve from accounting or anything. Nor do I think you should off someone that you're personally connected to so you can get a shot at a new ghost, assuming that's even a thing you can do. I was saying it kinda sucks, that's all.
You sigh. It does kinda suck. In fact, it definitely sucks. You think you can state that with some certainty here?
I'm also going to tell you a thing, and then we're never going to talk about it again,
Hal says, without looking at you, his eyes firmly fixed on the advertising boards on the opposite side of the train platform to you.
Okay,
you say, in a quiet voice in case Hal wants to keep this very subtle.
It's really fucked up to miss him, but sometimes it happens. You miss what he could have been, or the times when he wasn't as bad as Mom. We don't talk about it because he's a bastard and fuck that guy, but sometimes it happens. It can make you feel like you're screwed up and wrong, or that you were making the bad shit that he did up, or making it out to be worse than it was, because how can you miss someone if they were that bad? It doesn't work like that, and
You needed him around for something you actually gave a shit about. Something that was a huge part of who you are. If you wish he wasn't gone, it doesn't say anything about you. I don't hate you for it. I don't think that any of us would. Hal says, his eyes still fixed on the far wall. You don't ask how often Hal has felt like that, or how that made him feel. It makes you realize that Cotard is right, that you haven't really experienced Bro's death until now. You processed a bunch of stuff to do with the emotional trauma of his death as an event, but not the reality of him being dead. You've dealt with how the trial played out, with the lingering things that being there for his execution caused in your mind. Dealing with Bro being gone for good, with the man who was biologically your father actually being so dead that you can't talk to him, that you can never speak to him again, and knowing that the whole relationship is over, no matter how screwed up it was or how much closure you have. Yeah, you've not had this before. You can't get anything else off your chest. You can't get that last retort in. You can't try to get him to admit that he was wrong about anything. Sure, your chances for that stuff were low already, but in theory, it was possible. Not now. I wish... Your mouth started that before your brain got involved, but you let it keep going. You're interested to see where it goes to. I wish I wasn't so useless now. With the balance thing? Hal guesses, looking at you again now that the topic has shifted somewhat. Who knows? Not you. It seems like your mouth is going to say whatever it's going to say, and the rest of you is watching with as much curiosity as Hal. Sometimes this happens in therapy, too, but it's enlightening at times. Not always. Sometimes the Dave Strider verbal free association thing comes out with absolute nonsense, as your boyfriend and partner will no doubt cheerfully agree. This feels like it's a real one, not nonsense, so you're going to let it happen. Yeah, but also, I'm not good for anything anymore. Balancing sucks. There's no other way to put that. But I'm not even helping. I'm not helping Karkat and Solix. I'm a mess. I'm not making the ship. I'm not training for the mission. I'm not training Karkat and Solix. The fuck am I even for right now? You ask with a helpless shrug. I'm sorry. I'm clearly in need of medical attention. Egway is warned about the possibility of a blood clot causing a stroke, and that must be what's happening right now. You're saying that you're useless and not doing anything, as we are literally getting on a train to go to my surgery to get a new arm. The thing I specifically asked, specifically for you to do with me, because I specifically needed you. Hal asks incredulously and gestures to the train as you both step onto it. This doesn't count, you say, already knowing that he's going to ask you to prove that. No, do tell me how that's the case. This'll be good. Hal commands you in his most skeptical of voices as he sits down in one of the seats reserved for those with disabilities or mobility issues. You don't know if Hal's thinking of himself as disabled right now, but his balance is total shit, and he'll go flying the moment the train moves if he's not sitting down, so he may as well. It doesn't count because... You hesitate and try to justify something you feel is true. Because you asked. When I have a metal fist, I'm punching you with it, Hal informs you. My therapist has never threatened me with that, even though his fist is metal. He probably thinks it, I bet. You mutter. You don't blame him. You want to punch you a lot these days, and you are you. You don't have to do shit, and you're not for anything. Hal challenges you. Very motivational. Put it in your email signature. You snap back. You know my email signature will always state that this email inbox is not monitored so as to discourage people from talking to me, your brother says immediately. I know that you have a very specifically organized set of filters and AIs to determine what happens to any mail that you get, and only some of them get that. You tell him. I confirm nothing. My point is that... Hal trails off and squints at what appears to be nothing. You do turn around to check. Hal takes a breath and lifts a finger as if to pause the thought that he's having before he speaks. I was going to say that after everything you've dealt with, you deserve a rest and some time to find yourself or whatever. But
Then I remembered just how bad all of us are at doing that. Whenever we're sick or hurt, we're always doing something else, even if it's working on a project that's just for fun. So, even though you should chill and do whatever you want and figure your life out at your own pace, I just realized how hard that is. Thank you, you say gratefully. It's so hard to feel adrift and without purpose. That probably says something about how we were raised, but I'm not touching that. Actually, you're the best at doing nothing. You'd get back from missions and do fuck all for weeks before getting back into training, but it's probably easier to do that when you know that you're recovering so you can be more functional later. Hal adds. You don't have a later to be functional for. You don't have a function at all. At best, you can continue being a sailor, stay with the role you pretended that you had. That's not nothing, but it's not what you were really about. It still feels hollow and less than what you're supposed to be. What other option do you have? This doesn't count because you're my brother and I'm meant to help, and I'm the one who has experience that's useful to you here. Not to mention that if I'd reacted... You start. Not to mention means that you're not mentioning it. Hal talks over you, so you stop. My doc says I should recover and be kinder to myself and do whatever I want, you say, as the train slows to stop where you're meant to get off. You hold your hand out to Hal to help him up and keep him steady as you go to the doors. So pick a thing that's a job you can do without going overboard and do that. We're all shitty when we don't have some kind of project, so pick a light one and work on the healing around that, Hal suggests. You're pretty sure that Cotard would allow that. He did say for you to work if you felt like it, or rest if you felt like it. You're really not sure that you should be working on something that'll be structurally important for the carapacian ship in this state. Besides, who knows what your current mentality will do to the void if you're outside of the ship. You don't want to go the way Vakari did. Training Solix seemed pretty good last time, and I think that watching your boyfriend get sweaty is definitely a good way to spend your time. Hal teases you. Oh, so that's the appeal with Equius, you say with a grin. Hal's shoulder twitches, and you realize that he tried to smack you with an arm that he no longer has. He looks down at it in offense, and then twists to knee you in the thigh anyway. How are things with you two anyway? He's always been pretty big on medical ethics. It's basically why I trust him. Not boning your patients is kind of a big thing. You ask. You're curious, but you're also hoping that Equius hasn't ditched your brother or anything. We're still dating. Obviously not going on dates right now, but... Hal hesitates. I don't know. He made it pretty clear that he's keeping work and personal separate. For sure. The correct response to, here's your new arm, Mr. Strider, is not to smack him on the ass with it. That's the wrong way to break a new limb in. You agree. Thanks, I want to do that. Hal groans. Rip, you respond emotionlessly. I get it. It's weird, and right now I want an arm. Even if I want him too, it's a lot for both of us. Mostly, I think we're both just pretending that if we don't look at the relationship, it's not there, and we can make believe that the situation is totally normal. Hal says with a sigh. Nothing's normal, you say softly. That's a good conversation killer. Go you! Either way, you, Hal, and Beck go to the right operating area of the hospital together. Oh hey, I've been here a few times. It's bigger than the usual room I'm in with Ek, but this is the one we get when he needs more help or space, or someone else has the other one. You say to Hal, who is clearly nervous. Yeah? Hal asks. You knock on the door and go in first, unsurprised to find Equius alone in the room. It's not a standard operating theater. His cybernetic installation rooms don't look like they expect the patient to have their whole chest cut open and be bleeding everywhere. The point of cybernetics is that they're melded to the body, and working on them is supposed to be reasonably tidy and gore-free. It means that the room you're in looks way less intimidating than Hal was probably expecting. Hal, Dave, come in, Equius says politely. You see him notice Beck, but he says nothing.
You wait by the side as Equius has Hal hop up onto the specially made bed. It has a sideways portion that matches up to where Hal's arm will be. For now, he sits on the edge of the bed as Equius takes his basic vitals and talks in that calm voice he has.
We won't be able to numb you completely, as we still need nerve feedback and we need you to be responsive. We have sedation that will make you feel calm and a little dreamlike, but otherwise quite lucid, as well as enough medication to slightly numb the area further if things are uncomfortable and we don't need feedback just then. Equius explains.
It's not gonna make me mortifyingly embarrassing again, is it?
Hal asks warily.
Not if he's using the stuff he does on me.
You say.
Which I am, and I wouldn't anticipate the sedation would have that effect on you either. You can forego it if you're concerned, or see how you go without it and take it later. Dave, sorry, I assumed from our earlier conversations that you were happy for me to discuss your treatment. Is that all right?
Equius checks with you.
You're totally fine. Tell him whatever you need to. I don't do the sedation because it freaks me out to be out of control. That, comes from obvious places that are specific to me, so, you know.
You shrug a little pathetically, not wanting to talk about that shit right now.
I'm not great at being out of control either, but could we start smaller with the sedation shit and see how it is? Fuck, sorry, swearing.
Hal winces, and then does it again when he realized that he swore in his apology for swearing.
You're excused on that front, and we can absolutely do that. Now, let me talk you through your arm again. I've shown you the specification before, but I want to be clear.
Equius turns to his screen and starts to show Hal a whole bunch of stuff. Equius explains how Hal's arm will work, and how they're going to install it in order, how many people will be in the room, and what they will do. He tells him where you and Beck will be sat the whole time, and basically everything else that Hal could ever want to know about the procedure. When everything has been explained to death, you and Hal go to the adjoining bathroom. Mid-surgery is not a fun time to realize that you gotta go. It's thankfully never happened to you, but you'd hate to find out how that goes. Hal changes into surgery scrubs since this is going to be a little bit more involved than your basic eye maintenance is. He probably doesn't need to fully change, but if it keeps the surgical team happy, then it's whatever.
Thanks for this,
Hal whispers, his voice a little shaky as you tie the drawstring on his very high-fashion surgery outfit.
You're my big brother. You don't even need to thank me. Just tell me if you need me to talk more or less out there. I'm not going to be offended if you need me to shut up so you can deal.
You remind him.
So I can deal,
Hal repeats, as if he's not sure that he can. Doubts or no doubts, Hal still goes back into the main room and gets on the table. You get told very firmly what you can and can't touch when it comes to Hal, because even though you wash your hands and Hal gets wiped clean, there's still Beck. You gave him a good wash last night, and he's snow white and fluffy right now, but he's still a dog and is hardly sterile.
Everything has healed very well, and the swelling has gone down just as we'd hoped, Hal. This looks ideal.
Equius tells him reassuringly as he assesses Hal's fully uncovered shoulder.
Cool. Great. I'm really glad that you're happy with how it looks. I'm going to not look,
your brother says in a slightly strangled voice as he looks right at you.
You don't have to look,
you remind Hal. Hal makes a noise of stressed out agreement and opts to stare at you and get your thoughts instead.
How does it look? Do you want my answer as someone with some medical training, or do you want my answer as Dave?
You ask, trying to work out what kind of help Hal's looking for right now.
Both, in that order,
Hal says, grimacing as one of the other surgeons touches a thin wire coming from his shoulder.
With my limited medical training, I'd say that it still looks pretty angry, but you can absolutely tell that it's not a fresh injury, so Equius isn't talking up how much better it is compared to when you first woke up,
you say. You watch Hal's chest rise and fall, and the tension in his stomach as he tries to make himself breathe at a calm and even pace by being really tense and clenched up about it.
As Dave, I'd say that your shoulder looks like the ship's servers when you've spent days and days cable managing the shit out of them. So many tiny wires, but they're all grouped and organized like someone as weirdly obsessive as you did it. You add.
Thank you?
Equius says stiffly, making Hal giggle slightly. Who knows if that particular sound is because of the sedatives starting to loosen him up a little, or if Hal's just that into Equius. Your new arm's gonna be so cool. Everyone's gonna be jealous. You add, squeezing Hal's hand. Hal frowns and opens his hand. You let go, working on the assumption that he doesn't want you holding his hand, but instead, he flexes his fingers and touches your hand again.
I think the sedatives are working. I think. I can still feel everything, but it's like I'm dreaming it.
Hal says slowly.
That is what it's supposed to feel like. Is that all right for you?
Equius checks, pausing for a moment before handing part of Hal's new shoulder joint to another doctor.
I'm good,
Hal mumbles. You hold your brother's hand and talk to him, not caring what it is that you talk about, but just talking. Hal doesn't need you to be focused or on point. All he needs is for you to be there and have a conversation with him. No pressure, no nothing. Your mental self-control is shot to shit, and Hal's a bit too out of it to call you on it, assuming he even cares. The pair of you wander from topic to topic without any reason behind any of it. As you both talk, you get to watch Hal's arm coming together, the shiny bones and synthetic tendons joining up one by one, each one getting connected to little impossibly thin but brightly colored wires in Hal's shoulder. You get to see the connections click into place, and synthetic tendons and joints twitch as they come online and then relax. Whenever they test a cluster of them and need to watch Hal's nerves and the connection to the rest of his nervous system, Hal falls silent. He grits his teeth and answers their question with small nods or shakes of his head. You trace spirals and whorls on his open palm to try to ground him through the unfamiliar sensation.
Remember when Rose got really into spooky shit, including palm reading?
You ask.
Yeah?
Hal says, and grimaces as one of the tendons through his forearm is snugly covered by synthetic muscle that shines in silver and reflective dark gunmetal gray.
What do you think she's gonna see in your new palm? You wonder. Zaha Corp, patent pending, made on Atuan?
Hal jokes weakly.
I would never.
Equius interrupts.
I know. I think the sedative is wearing off a little.
Hal mumbles. Equius pauses in his work to sort Hal out again, and after that things are fine. Hal makes it through the rest of the installation of his arm, but he looks understandably exhausted by the time that he's through. Equius takes Hal back to a recovery room, or so the door tells you. You came here once when you were really early on with your new eyes, but thinking back on it, you just figured it was a really comfy break room. Hal's new arm is in a sling for the moment, just for the support until Hal can adjust to the sensation of it being there. Equius steers him into a plush reclining chair and reclines it for him, too. He goes away and then returns with some kind of sugary drink and a few snacks. Equius explains the call button and tells Hal to rest and get his blood sugar back to normal as he waits for the last of the sedatives and Operation Painkillers to fade from his system. You promise to stay put and call if Hal needs anything, and Equius will, of course, be checking in now and then. You know Equius, and although you know that he modifies his medical care to your needs, he is definitely fussing a little bit more over Hal. Adorable.
I think I'm gonna sleep,
Hal mumbles when Equius has finally left and shut the door behind him.
Go for it, but maybe eat and drink something first,
you suggest. Hal nods and chugs half of his drink, eats a handful of mini pretzels, and is out like a light. You smile at Hal, but feel a little relieved that he's asleep. Being around Hal is easier than most people, which is weird given the fact that Bro put him in this situation and is now dead. Even so, it's hard work having to act human for someone when you feel so broken and worn thin yourself. Even so, you're at least somewhat reassured that you didn't collapse into a useless pile of shit like you did before. Even now, as you pet Beck's furry face, you suspect that Cotard would have words about how you're thinking about yourself there, but he can't actually read your mind, so who's the real winner here? No, really, you're not sure. As you wait for Hal to recover, you let your mind wander. Both Cotard and Hal said about how resting doesn't have to be the kind of rest that makes you feel useless and shitty about yourself. Being outside of the ship is probably a dumb idea, but you can do something else at least, right?
Are you busy?
Yes.
Cool. I was thinking about something.
I was going to follow that with, but give me a second and I will stop what I'm doing to talk to you, but evidently that doesn't matter.
Sure. Anyway, I want to run something by you to work out if it's a bad idea or if you're even interested.
Okay, I'm wary, but okay. First of all, though, how's Hal?
Oh, he's fine. Sleeping it off, but it looked like it went well.
That's good to hear. I've been thinking about him and hoping it was going to be okay. I'll let Solix know, too. Assuming that Solix hasn't done something stupid, like hack into the medical records to see how he is.
Yeah, maybe stop him doing that.
I try. Fuck knows I try. What was your idea?
I'm fucked balance-ways, and I'm fucked up about it. I still want to be useful, and I am still a sailor, and I'm still going to Skya, but so are you two.
Unless your doctor wouldn't clear you, I can't see that Nepeta or Polypa would cut you from the mission. That would be impossibly cold of them.
Right, and even if I'm just another pair of hands and the right training, that's still a thing they need. But I shouldn't be outside of the ship right now, so working on the Carapacian ship is out.
Wait, why can't you be outside the ship? Are you telling me you think you might do something dangerous? Dave, do I need to be concerned?
Not like that.
Then, like what?
I mean that I'm a balancer without a ghost, and I'm tuned in as hell to the void, not to mention I feel really bad about all the things in my past right now. Unless you want me to make an eat me sign for the void and take it outside with me to tempt it more, I think I should stay inside.
God. Like Vicari, you mean?
Exactly.
Okay, that's a level of horror that I hadn't thought about, but consider that noted. Please don't go outside.
Not gonna. But I'm thinking that you two still need training to fly and do what you have to do on planet. That's a thing I can do. Measurable goal and time with you two and routine or whatever.
That's a really good point, and I do need to pass the test.
But what?
No, but I think it's a great idea. I'm just not thrilled when I imagine how sore I'm going to be afterwards. It's a good way of trying to redirect yourself and is probably incredibly healthy. It's kind of what I'm doing with my translation stuff, and I didn't even have the sense to seek that out properly. I mostly fell into it.
So, you don't think I'm just avoiding things or trying to stupidly push myself when I'm meant to be recovering or whatever the fuck?
It doesn't sound like it, but I can promise you that if it looks like you're doing that, I'll tell you. You don't need to deal with the bad shit that's happened to you the same way that anyone else would deal with their own disasters. Fuck doing things the right way. Normalcy is for ugly, boring, stupid people.
Yeah, man, that's what I want to be. Some kind of avant-garde breakdown artist. And if I spelt that wrong, I do not care.
You didn't spell avant-garde wrong. There's a hyphen in there, but so what?
Oh, sweet.
There is a K in breakdown, however.
I am on the record as not caring.
You certainly are. Hey, Dave, when you're done, come home so I can kiss your stupid face.
Okay.
Oh, is that where the K in breakdown went?
Karkat is probably going to worry later that he's offended you, but the truth is that you just couldn't come up with a good enough comeback, and you are not admitting that to Karkat's face.
Instead of talking to Karkat more, you lean against the lounge plank and mindlessly pet Beck's fur, letting your brain slip into some kind of power-saving mode. Maybe your whole brain slip-slides out of your head. You can't prove it doesn't. Beck, stop it. Hal grumbles at some point later, powering your brain back on and making a dozing Beck look up. You look at Beck, who is very distinctly doing nothing and looking confused as why Hal is saying his name in a "you did bad" voice. "What?" you ask Hal. "Scratching the wall. Stop it." Hal huffs. "Beck's not doing anything, man," you say. Hal frowns and shifts in his chair, opening his eyes and looking at you and Beck both. He looks totally confused as he changes between focusing on Beck and then the wall on the other side of the recliner. I guess I was dreaming. It sounded like something was scratching the wall, trying to get at something, so I thought, Beck, claws and whatever. Hal trails off into a yawn. "You're a good boy," you reassure Beck and pet him a little. Hal shifts a little to sit up a bit more, so you lean over to press the button on the recliner and slowly move him upright again. As he gets more and more upright, Hal looks down at his new arm. You saw it as they were putting it together, but it's somehow different now that it's just there and seems like part of him. The arm is realistically skin-colored, tinted to match Hal's own tone. It's a more basic version at the moment, since they're testing how sensitive they've been able to make his synthetic skin, and as the arm is new, there's likely going to be lots of adjustments needed. All of that means that they're not putting their absolute best into making his skin perfect just yet. Even so, he has entirely realistic fingernails, his skin is darker at his finger joints when his fingers lay straight, yet it's still wrong to look at. You know why. With your vision, you can see the lack of normal pores, fine body hair, tiny blood vessels, and the like that make human skin look like human skin. The final product will certainly be more convincing, that's for sure. "So, how do you feel? Do you want me to get aqueous?" you ask Hal. Hal doesn't answer you. Instead, he looks down at his new arm like he's studying it carefully. Ever so carefully, he touches his shoulder, feeling out the join between his biological body and the transition to the mechanical replacement. He winces a little as his fingers probe the line of his shoulder, but you'd bet it's from the skin there still being pretty sore. Did you feel weird about using your eyes for the first time after they changed them?" Hal asks. "I was worried about how well they'd work, but looking at stuff is pretty passive, and you don't think as much about how you're moving your eyes when you compare it to deliberately moving your arm." You answer him, noting that Hal hasn't moved his arm at all. Hal nods vaguely at your words, and then, ever so cautiously, he moves his fingers. They had been laid straight and neat in his sling, but now they curl in slowly before relaxing once more. Hal gently drums them in a slow wave of movement against his middle. "That is deeply weird," your brother says quietly. "How?" you ask, hoping it doesn't mean that the surgery went wrong. "I can feel my fingers, but it's all a little numb," he says, and runs his other hand over his new arm. "Yeah, that's the skin not being as good at the moment, remember?" You tell him. "No, I know, but it's... Okay, I can't feel my bones normally, but it feels like the inside of this arm doesn't feel like the inside of this one does in a way that I can't really put into words," Hal explains. You shuffle over to the recliner on your knees and lean up to get a closer look at Hal's arm. Ever so carefully, you run a finger over each forearm at the same time. "I can't pick out what's different, but it is," he says. "It's probably 100 little things. How warm your blood is, the feel of your own pulse under your skin, the texture of your own muscles. Things you don't think about, but when they're different, you notice them. It's pretty different for me. I don't feel a lot inside my eye sockets. It's bone covered in tiny eye muscles that got replaced." You shrug. "Probably. I should probably get Aqueous in here to test how it's going instead of screwing around doing my own diagnostics or trying to pull off a handstand or whatever." Hal laughs. "Smart," you agree as Hal presses the button. Aqueous hurries into the room at silly speeds. You'd bet anything that he was only doing make work until Hal called and then dropped everything instantly. You sit back and watch as Equius gets Hal's new arm out of his sling and starts asking him a million questions. He evaluates how heavy the arm feels to Hal, which is heavier, but not absurdly so. He hunts for any numb patches on his arm and tests his sensation of pressure when his arm is gently squeezed in places. Hal has to bend his new arm, hand and fingers every which way so that Equius can note how it all feels. After that, you get to the interesting stuff, the kind of things that you'd been curious about. You lost both of your eyes and gained your new ones in return. Hal still has a mirrored limb to compare to, so he's always going to feel a little asymmetrical in ways you won't.
Hold both hands like this,
Equius says, and holds his own hands in front of him with his palms up but relaxed.
Now, I want you to try touching your thumb to your little finger, then your ring finger, and so on. When you get to the end, go back. Do it with your biological hand first, then your new one, and then to both at once.
You watch as Hal manages to do the task quickly and easily with his flesh and blood hand. It's a little slower with his mechanical one, but you think he's just being hesitant about it. When Hal has to repeat the movement with both, it's slow, and the look on his face is utterly confused.
That's so weird,
Hal says, continuing to loop the pattern with both hands.
It can feel a little unusual. That's very common. We have plenty of therapy lined up to help your brain recognize your new arm as yours. It's very well studied. You seem very accurate, actually,
Equius points out, and sure enough, Hal has picked up a bit of speed as he's gained some confidence.
Yeah, it's not like it's not responding right. It's incredibly accurate. It just feels weird. I didn't expect it to be this. Hal starts.
Careful, Equius says hurriedly as Hal goes to clasp his hands together.
What?
Hal asks, freezing in alarm.
Misjudging the strength of the replacement arm is a very common error. Be careful when holding anything fragile, including your other hand. You can do it, of course, but be aware that until you relearn pressure and strength, that you may have a few mishaps. You certainly don't want a broken finger on top of all of this,
Equius warns him.
There's worse things to find that out with.
You grin.
You joke, but misadventures of that nature with patients or their partners are not unheard of,
Equius says awkwardly, his face going a little blue.
Thanks, Dave,
Hal says flatly.
No, you're right. It's a big deal. I'm really glad you have Equius to help you out,
you say mildly. Not innocently, because then they'd know that you're deliberately making implications. You're being careful enough that they're going to have to wonder if you meant it or not. Hal very carefully raises his new hand and then uses it to flip you off. You're very proud. Equius continues through the last of his checks and then books Hal a whole mess of appointments for following everything up, including an appointment in a month to get a higher quality skin put over the cybernetic arm to take the place of the placeholder skin he has right now. He explains how to care for his shoulder after the surgery and re-emphasizes just how normally he can treat his new arm. There's no special cleaning regimen at all. He should care for it like he would any other part of his body. You and Hal leave with a massive stack of digital files about his new arm, including advice about mobility and rehabilitation exercises that are supposed to help strengthen the brain's memory for movement with the arm and to basically trick his brain into thinking that this is the same arm that he's always had. You bring Hal home, delivering him to your dad, but also to Dirk and Roxy, who are obsessed with the tech, and Jane, who wants to know all about the surgery and how Hal feels now. You get to duck out of that and escape back home before anyone asks you to stay. As you follow the familiar route back to your hive on autopilot, you find yourself once again trying to summon Bro. As before, you get nothing. In fact, you get less than that. You don't even get the shards you got of him before. Bro is gone. You don't know how you feel or how you're supposed to feel. You know far more about your feelings when it comes to not being a balancer anymore, or how you feel about those ghosts only taking Bro down now. When it comes to Bro being gone, you're lost. The thought that
you're never going to have to worry about him showing up out of nowhere is nice. You no longer have to be partly aware of your surroundings when you're kissing Solix or Karkat, or if you're not staying aware in that situation, you'd have to accept that if Bro showed up, then it would be awful. You won't have to think about that again. You won't have to focus on keeping a straight face when you're around other people and Bro is either talking shit about them or ripping into you. You don't have to care what he thinks now, because he's not thinking anything. You think you're relieved about that. It's not really sunk in yet, but you've wished for that much so many times. Is that it? Man, your biological father is gone forever, and all you can feel about it is upset about the things his loss has personally cost you, relief that he won't berate you any longer, and feeling finally free of his judgment. Isn't that kind of shitty? You do feel bad for Bro at times. It's not hard to see that his life was screwed up. He lost a lot of people pretty close together, and your mom absolutely took advantage of that to manipulate him. But, fuck, you told him that so many times. You showed him all the ways that he was wrong, but he refused to ever change or admit it. At a certain point, don't you have to let a person wear their awful actions despite their decisions? Sure, it's sad that Bro became who he did instead of some other person. He could have been someone more like your brothers, but he wasn't. It's way fucking sadder that he made you and all of your siblings as messed up as you are. You win that competition. Fuck, what was it? Roxy used to say something about Bro. Your dad taught it to her when she was struggling with how she felt about his death. Oh, yeah. If Bro had wanted to be remembered better, then he should have done better. You hold on to that thought tightly, but it's hard. It's hard to remember that when you keep getting the moment of his death flashing through your mind. When he was spaced, he was shattered enough that he wasn't all there, and what was there was defiant and unafraid. At the very least, he acted that way. He stood in that airlock without a plea or a protest. But that wasn't how it was in the bar. He was afraid, hurt, confused. He hadn't been prepared for that attack, or his death. You didn't want to see that. You're angry that the three of them made you see it, but you can't help but feel empathy for Bro in that moment. He was the worst, but he was still a person, and it's never a good feeling to see someone like that. The irony is that Bro would probably accuse you of being weak for feeling that. You return home, exhausted. You feel weird. When you're around the right people, you can almost be normal. You feel more or less okay unless the topic is too raw. It's not as if you're faking it or acting out a role, but it's almost easier to be a person when you're serving a purpose. Take Hal to his appointments with his arm, train Solix and Karkat, meet with the actual balancers to offer your thoughts on what's going on. You've even been able to check someone else's balance and give them a second opinion on whether they need to get an actual balancer in to correct it with them, or if it's fine. When you're by yourself, however, everything flattens into the dull line of exhaustion that you're familiar with from working damn near every hour you get for days in a row when you're on a mission with a time crunch. You're tired and hollow, until you're around the right people or doing the right thing, and then you're back and nearly normal. You swear you're going to give yourself whiplash from this. On the plus side, it is improving as the weeks pass. Spending time with Solix and Karkat when the three of you are just being chill is nice. You feel more normal then, without it being switched on. Cotard isn't making as big of a thing about you needing a purpose as you'd thought he might. He agrees that you've probably been conditioned to see yourself as a sailor following orders, and as a balancer who has to fulfill a role. That's probably done a number on your head. He also points out that everyone feels shitty if they feel their life has no purpose and they've lost their identity. It's refreshing to have something reasonably normal wrong with you for once. What's less helpful is the guilt that you get when you can't help the balancers like you want to.
I'm telling you, it's something. It's not unreality, but it's something.
Gimsey says, over breakfast for him, lunch for you three, and dinner for Aradia. I don't know. Yeah, lots of people are freaking out about hearing and dreaming similar things, but that doesn't mean it's new.
Solix says, scrolling one-handed through his palm husk.
I have to agree. People dream and hear all kinds of things. It's only now that everyone knows about the void that the idea that it might mean something is spreading,
Aradia says wisely.
But it's really specific. That many people hearing something clawing in the walls or dreaming about it is pretty niche. It's not like dreaming of falling, or dreams about being in class and you've forgotten your homework, or you're naked in class suddenly,
Karkat says with a frown. All of you look at him in silence. I've had dreams about falling and forgetting an assignment, you say after a second.
I've dreamt about falling,
Aradia adds slowly. Karkat looks around at the otherwise silent table before loudly insisting, These are normal dreams that everyone has! Your experiences are not universal, Solix says, and pats Karkat condescendingly on the shoulder. Anyway, I don't think it matters if it is weird that people are dreaming about this or hearing it. Gamzee starts again. Right. I'm in here and something wants in is a pretty basic instinctual fear for both of our species. Especially now that people know there is something out there at all. You agree?
No, shut up, I'm not done. Everyone has those dreams. They're basic nightmares. Like the one where your teeth all fall out.
Karkat interrupts.
Well, I hadn't had that one before now, but if I do, I know it's you who's to blame.
Aradia tells him with a little grimace on her face.
Don't you tell me you've never had that one. Both of you have.
Karkat accuses Gamzee and Solix. Yeah, I've had that one. That one wasn't my... Gamzee begins, but Karkat's heard what he needs to and rounds on Solix.
Don't lie, Captor. I know you've had that one.
Karkat accuses him. I had that dream once where you dropped me down some stairs and knocked all my teeth out. I'm not sure that counts. Solix shrugs. Enough of whatever Karkat's saying. You had a point? You direct that to Gamzee, who did seem to be getting somewhere, unlike Karkat.
Hey!
Karkat protests, and no one listens. I'm saying, it doesn't matter if everyone's spooky dreaming of the same thing, or if it's all people being aware of shit now. The point is, you get people talking, Gamzee says leadingly.
And the idea catches on anyway. So we could be dealing with a rush of void out of nowhere. Great. None of us have had a dream or heard something like scratching, though?
Aradia asks. I don't think so. I hear Beck walking around sometimes, using the ablution block like a weird furry little person, but claws on the floor when he's walking isn't the same. I can try to notice it, but then that's the same thing happening again, right? If you start expecting to hear something, then you will. Solix points out. You shake your head. You can't think you've heard anything about this. Then again, your memory isn't great right now. The stretches of time where you're exhausted and flat mostly glaze over your brain without leaving much of a trace. You'd be hard-pressed to remember what day of the week it is today, let alone things people have told you about their dreams or weird noises they've heard.
What can we realistically do about this? Aside from making sure that we're checking and balancing like we should, I mean. It was only the four of us that got into each other's dreams and...
Karkat trails off to look at you. It's not happened since. I've not tried to do it, but yeah. You shrug. No balancer powers, no reason to think you could share that space. Could you test that? You can still see everything you could before. You can see our ghosts, or you could if any of them were here. Regular people can't do that. It looks like you can't do the active parts of balancing, so is sharing your dreams an active thing or not? Solix suggests.
As much as I want to give Solix shit for splitting something into two categories, he has a point.
Karkat agrees. You don't know how you feel about that, or how you feel about another chance to test how much you've lost. The universe doesn't stop because of your feelings. What about a couple of hours from now? You ask wearily. You don't want to do this, but that's not important.
It's the middle of the day for you three. I know that you, me, and Gamzee can fall asleep anytime, anywhere, pretty much, but these two?
Aradia says, pointing her fork at Karkat and Solix. Karkat already has trouble sleeping,
Gamzee adds. You watch Karkat's face go through a quick reel of emotion. The fact that Gamzee knows that because of how long their relationship was, then maybe a little indignant that he'd still say that now that they're not together, but then dismissive and irritated at himself because breaking up with someone doesn't give you amnesia. Karkat has a very expressive face. Sure, normally. Dave's been making us do insane sailor training, AA. I couldn't feel my arms for like half an hour afterwards, and now that I can, I regret it. I've got aches and muscles I didn't even know I had. Trust me, we're worn out enough to sleep whatever time of day it is. Solix reassures her. A nap does sound good, especially if I can do it guilt-free because it's for balancer reasons, Karkat adds. All right then. Aradia nods, and that's it. You end up crashing on Karkat's bed with him, although Solix opts to sleep in his own room. Apparently he feels overheated from working out and then having lunch, and Karkat is hotter than the star we just passed, and Solix will die from heat stroke if he sleeps next to the two of you right now. That's fine. All the more room for you. You watch as Karkat strips some of his clothes off. Your sex drive was already a confusing thing, but since Bro got doubly murdered, it's sort of evaporated. Mostly, at least. Right now, you can watch Karkat take his clothes off, and there's far more interest in the sight going on in your head than there was when Jade would change clothes near you. Having the energy to do anything about that, though? Yeah, not happening. You haven't mentioned it to Karkat or Solix, but that's only because you think they'd both tell you that it's normal or whatever, and they care about your well-being or some shit like that. Pfft, stupid reasonable ideas. Karkat nearly knocks a boxy little machine off of his desk when he tosses his sweatshirt that way, and then has to scramble to save it. Oh, thank fuck for that. Hal would kill me. Karkat sighs as he sets it safely back on his desk. What about Hal? You ask. Karkat gives you a strange look. This is the device Hal made for me, or the first version at least. I did show you. Your memory is coming up blank. He offered to put together a workable translation device for the Carapacians, one smart enough to learn when we're there and translate for everyone. Remember? I did tell you. Karkat continues. Oh, yeah, right. You nod. You have zero memory of this conversation at all. Come on, poker face. You don't want Karkat to think that you've been ignoring him. It's only the first version. I'm sure that even if I did drop it, that Hal has already thought of a million things he wants to change about it. At least it's giving him a project to rehabilitate his fine control, so even if it doesn't work, it's done that much. Karkat says casually and undoes his belt. Your mouth goes a little dry, but it passes when you catch sight of Karkat's underwear with little crabs and sandcastles on it. You remember Kanaya swearing that she got him some one year, but you'd never seen the proof of it before. There is a god and it's Kanaya. Those are... You're cut off by Karkat's hand over your mouth. Whatever you're going to say, don't, okay? Thanks, Karkat says with cheerful menace before pecking you on the cheek with a chaste kiss and then rudely shoving you backwards onto his bed. Karkat Vantas, signal mixing champion, everyone! Karkat snuggles up to you sweetly, just to confuse things further. It's not really confusing, though. Karkat's always been like this. Both loud and abrasive, but a complete sap at heart. You genuinely love him for it. You really do. As Aradia said, you've learned how to fall asleep quickly when your brain knows that you're doing it for work. Having Karkat's soft shoulder for a pillow and the soothing pattern of his breathing is a bonus in your favor when it comes to the easy task of catching a nap. You open your eyes when you hear a bark, hurrying out of bed before Beck wakes Karkat up by doing it again. You're 3 steps through a door that isn't Karkat's before you catch that you're lucid dreaming. This isn't your hive, but it is the inside of a spaceship. Beck? You call out. He's nowhere to be seen. Beck's never been in one of your shared dreams before, though he's appeared in plenty of your lucid dreams. Thinking about it, though, you don't remember seeing him. You just assumed that barking meant Beck. Maybe he did bark, and it reached through your sleeping mind, and now you're lucid. You take the chance to look around the blank and generic room that you're in, but there's something really weird about it. Or rather, there's something really weird with your vision. Everything on the right of you seems brighter, like there's a glare off of a light right by your head. As you turn, the world around you shifts in brightness, so it's definitely your eyes and not the room.
Karkat. Karkat's light, and I'm...
You press your hand to the side of your face that you know is resting on Karkat's shoulder, and yeah, you can just about feel Karkat underneath you. Well, that's interesting. You've not had that happen before. You should wander around and see if you can find your way into the shared dream. There's a regular door on the wall across from you, and when you open it, there's a long steel corridor that seems to stretch off into forever. It won't do that, but it's weird dream logic, so you won't question it. You'll walk down it and think about Karkat's ice cream parlor, Aradia's museum, or even Gamzee's nightmare space. The door shuts behind you, making you pause. It's automatic, obviously, but this place is super weird. The shape of the door is very old-school Alternian, as was the room you were in before, but this hallway isn't. The sign by the door is in obviously human letters, but they're gibberish dream squiggles, and when you focus on it, the most you get is a bunch of vaguely Latin alphabet letters with the bunch upside down or weird for no reason. Where are you getting old Alternian spaceship design from? It can't be Karkat. He's never been off of the ship. Weird. As you walk, you notice that the hallway feels anxious. Fear is baked into the walls in the same way that it is in yours and Gamzee's nightmares. This isn't your fear, so whose fear is it? A bark echoes down the hallway. The loudness of it echoing around the metal walls makes you jump.
Beck?
Beck, where are you? You call out and hurry forward. A distressed yip makes you break into a run, one that you immediately stop when your head hits the ceiling. You reach up and press your hand to the ceiling and find it mere finger widths above your head. Looking to your side, you realize how much closer the walls are now.
Oh, nope, not doing that.
You announce and turn around, only to find a dead end so close behind you that your arm bangs into it before you can turn. Oh, great. The back of your neck breaks out in a sweat. You've just got to keep your cool and keep going. Think of the balancer's spaces and try to find a door as you go. It's just a dream. You start walking again, the walls and ceiling getting closer and closer with every step. You can't even stop walking because the wall behind you moves with you, even shoving you forward at times. You walk crouched, then bent fully over, and before long you're crawling on your hands and knees. This isn't your dream. Whose dream? There's another bark and a scrabbling sound of claws on metal. You know it's stupid, but you're so used to Beck that you can't help but want to get to him. If you're getting crushed in like this, then he is too. He'll be scared. He'll know you're scared, and he won't be able to get to you unless you find him.
It's okay. I'm here.
You call out as the lucidity starts to slip from you.
It's so hot, and you're stuck. You can't get anywhere. You can't get back, and there's no one here.
You reach forward again, the metal floor hot under your hands, and then teeth sink into your sleeve and pull. You wriggle and crawl as canine teeth pull you forward, first from your sleeve and then the front of your shirt. With a gasp, you tumble into a tiny space, but one that's still bigger than where you were.
Oh, fuck. Thank you, Beck.
You fall silent and stare. That's not Beck. It's a dog, all right, but it's not Beck. She's not your dog, or not any more than having her image inked into your skin makes her yours. She has her bright little Soviet harness and suit on. Around her is the small shuttle that you've read about 100 times. The labels on everything recognizably human, but unreadable. Like they would be if a dog was remembering them. She watches you, her intelligent little face pointed right at you, and her eyes, oh, they're not like Beck's. They're not dark canine eyes, but they're not black like Solix's dream selves were. Her eyes are dark like space, but filled with a million stars and galaxies, and she's watching you with them and waiting.
Leica,
you breathe. She barks, and the sound comes from everywhere, in a million different canine voices from every direction, including the inside of your head. How? You start to ask, leaning forward to touch her, to pet her. Doesn't she deserve to be petted after everything she went through? She doesn't give you a chance, bounding forward, rubbing her face over your hand, and then colliding her little body against yours. The shuttle space is so small that your knees are pressed against the walls and the panels on either side. It's okay, you tell her. You're okay. You know you should tell her that it's over, that she didn't deserve to be crammed in this thing, shot into space and left to die, that she deserved better than a science experiment, that she deserved to be saved. You should say that, but you don't. You did it. You did a great job, girl, you tell her instead, because she's a dog, and dogs need to know that they did a good job. What's right or wrong about the science of what happened isn't the point, not for her. They trained her to do a job, and she did it. She didn't get a choice, but she still did the job. You did it, Laika. You finished the mission. You're good, you tell her. If she's been out here alone this whole time, you hope she hasn't, but you hope that knowing she did good will help. Laika pulls back and looks at you. It's like staring into infinity with her eyes being the way they are. As she moves, you hear something clink. She's still tethered to the ship. She doesn't need that anymore, that's for sure. You reach out and touch the tether, squeezing the clip at the end to unhook it from the wall. As you do, something changes, but you're not sure what. You look around, and out of the window. There's no window in here. There was no window in here. There still isn't. The whole front panel of the shuttle is just gone. You shove your back against the wall in a panic, only for the parts of the shuttle around you to fall away soundlessly and smoothly. There's no stars in space around you, only infinite crushing void. Edge to edge, there's nothing. The shuttle parts slide away, even as you claw at them to try to hold them near you, and fail. Laika's tether slips through your fingers, and you desperately lunge for it. The void is all around you. There's no escape, and you can feel how close it is. You won't let her face it alone. Not again. She's watching you, floating there and watching with her starry eyes. She doesn't understand what's going to happen, does she? She couldn't. You have to get to her. You have to. You reach out for the tether, stretching as far as you possibly can, but it's out of reach. Just out of reach, no matter how much you fight and kick to try to somehow get closer. You look at her helplessly and hopelessly. Laika twists effortlessly in space to right herself like she was standing normally, and the movement makes the tether shift closer to you. She stares and then barks, so loud that your ears ring, so close that it's inside your head. You jolt awake, the bark still echoing off of the walls, to find Beck staring at you. "Oh, fuck, there's something out there!" Karkat yells as he jerks awake. There is. Laika's out there.